This is What Do You Bring to the Table, where youth voices help shape the future of food. We are a nonprofit project made by youth for youth that aims to explore the many interesting and diverse career paths available in Canadian food systems. By interviewing industry leaders across the country, we get a first-hand look at existing and emerging agri-food career opportunities, with a focus on equity and sustainability. Special thanks to the R. Howard Webster Foundation, the Catherine Maxwell Meighen Foundation, and the Peterborough K.M. Hunter Charitable Foundation for supporting this project. We hope these stories inspire you to explore your own path in Canada's agri-food sector. Please visit our website, www.youthinfoodsystems.ca, to sign up for our free monthly newsletter or to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Now, on to the interview. This is episode 2, Alexia and Danielle.
Hi Danielle, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Alexia Menenga. I'm 15 years old and I'm from Ontario. I'm part of the Youth in Food Systems interview series 5, and I'm super excited to speak with you today about your work in hydroponic farming and being the CEO of Ceragen.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I guess a little bit of my background. I've been working in agriculture now for almost 5 years. Prior to that, my background was in microbiology and synthetic biology. So I did an undergrad degree at University of Guelph, in microbiology. Really got interested in how we can use microbes to help improve human processes. And then going to an agriculture university is kind of how I got started in the agriculture system itself. I've been running Ceragen since 2021, working on basically microbial solutions for hydroponic fruit and vegetable growers.
Super cool, super cool. So my first question is, what inspired you to become involved in hydroponic farming?
Yeah, so that was really looking into kind of where opportunities existed in farming. So most people aren't aware of this, but Canada is actually one of the leading kind of countries in greenhouse agriculture. So we are a major player in the world space as well as kind of the leaders in North America. So Canadian companies actually run a lot of what happens here in Canada, US, and Mexico. So either owning operations or in multiple countries, or even marketing produce for, say, growers who are in Mexico, but it could be a Canadian marketer that they're working with. So Canada does have a big influence, especially here in Ontario. Over half of the greenhouses in Canada exist in Ontario, and most of them are actually clustered in this one little tiny area between Windsor and London, in this couple little towns called Leamington and Kingsville, which is actually the highest concentration of greenhouses in all of North America.
Wow, I didn't know that. So what really kind of motivated you to start your own company?
Yeah, I've kind of always wanted to do something kind of entrepreneurial. I've always been kind of on that bent even since I was younger. And I think what kind of inspired me to start Ceragen itself was just becoming really interested in microbiology and this thing called the Great Plate Count Anomaly, which is this concept that we can only culture 1% of the world's microbes in the lab. So that means like 99% of what's out there we don't have access to from a from the perspective of being able to use it for like biotech kind of stuff. So got really interested in kind of how do we solve that problem? What can we use these microbes for? And then one thing kind of led to another, and that's how I ended up starting Ceragen. So I think that most people who are in startups, it's not usually a linear journey. There's kind of you get kind of pointed down a direction and you just follow where the path takes you. So I would say that definitely kind of happened to myself and like my journey in starting Ceragen.
Yeah, super cool, super cool. So, I myself, I didn't know what hydroponic farming was. So, can you tell us a little bit about kind of what it is?
Yeah, so in hydroponics, what we are doing is basically growing plants in soilless growing media. So this is either usually rock wool, which is a spun rock insulation, similar to what you would actually use in housing, or it is in usually ground up coconut husk, so which we call coco coir, or in peat moss, or some combination thereof. So the two most common ones you're going to find in like the big, as far as like vine crops, which are things like tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers, are coconut coir or the rockwool insulation. And so what you're basically doing is feeding the nutrients that the plant is requiring for growing into the water through basically the fertigation systems, those little drip stakes that go to each plant. The nutrient solution goes to the plants, and you can have really precise control over the actual nutrients that each plant is receiving. As actually, weirdly enough, it also uses substantially less water because there's a lot less overspray, and you're recollecting the runoff and then cycling it back through the system.
Yeah, I found it interesting that it uses less water than traditional farming. But yeah.
Yeah, like way less, like 95% less.
So you did mention that you did go to the University of Guelph. So if somebody wanted to go down your career path, what kind of education kind of helped you prepare, and what do you tell someone else to do if they want to go through your career path?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess in my kind of career path, like Guelph's a great school for microbiology. I have friends who went through University of Waterloo, also has an excellent biology program and great microbiology professors. If you wanted to go into the greenhouse industry specifically, then either Ridgetown campus from Guelph or actually Niagara College would be a really good option there as well. They have a great horticultural program through the college, where I've encountered a lot of growers that have gone to either Guelph or Niagara in the industry.
Okay, cool. So it's more like, pardon me, what did you say? What kind of like major is it?
Yeah, so for what I did was a microbiology major. So that's what you would do if you wanted to work with microbes and do stuff on that side. For working in the farming side though is horticulture. So horticulture basically refers to a large broad category of crops, but it does tend to be things that are like in comparison to like row crops where you think of like corn and soy and things like that. We're talking in horticulture, usually more things like fruit and vegetables, or stuff that enter that category.
But how would you say that your farming methods grow plants more effectively?
Yeah, so hydroponic greenhouses can produce about 10 times more produce per meter squared than anything in field agriculture. So if you think about that, that's like when we talk about tomatoes, that's the difference between 8 kilograms of tomatoes, which is, like a box of tomatoes kind of thing, or like, 80, which is a person. That's a whole person's worth of tomatoes. So that is kind of what we're talking about there. So you can usually get far more consistent yields. It's far more consistent quality. Like everything you're picking off of the plant for the most part just looks good, in comparison to field where you get a lot more variability. So that I think is like some of the big advantages of like greenhouse agriculture is just the consistency, the quality, and the fact that you can grow year round, like approximately how much your yields are going to be and things like that. So it is just a more robust supply chain.
Okay. So how would a regular workday look like for you as a farmer and as a CEO?
Yeah, so I don't do as much farming, and that we kind of work more with farmers, but as far as like CEO, honestly, a lot of what I do is answering emails, checking on spreadsheets, a lot of clerical work. I do a lot of site visits to growers, so I spend a lot of time driving because they're not usually close. So I end up driving a lot, especially the Leamington area. But going to see like different growers, ask them about what their problems are, helping them with doing like sampling for disease testing or talking to them about other microbiology stuff while I'm there. So that's kind of like what my day looks like. For growers, I mean, their days are chaos always. I swear, like every day in greenhouse agriculture feels like there's something's on fire. It just depends on the day what it is. So like in there, these are really big, like many person operations. So in comparison to where you think of like fields, where you're like, oh, it's like one guy in a tractor. It's like, no, there's like hundreds of people involved in these operations.
Yeah. Okay. So, what would you say one challenge you have faced in your work?
Oh, one challenge? Um, trying to think of like what a good challenge is. I mean, I face new challenges every day. And so I'd say that that's in itself a challenge. Is just the fact that like, when you're starting to start a company, everything you're doing is something you've never done before. And just as you start to feel comfortable with something, you have to do something new that you've never done before. So you don't really have a chance to get good at anything, because you're just constantly having to solve new problems. But like even just like challenges that like we've overcome, one of the things that's been an interesting challenge for us is like a lot of people don't know about the greenhouse industry. So like when we go to do things like fundraising as a startup company, whereas other people get to start off with things like it's like they're the value or the problem that they're going after is very obvious to people. My first couple slides have to be like, the greenhouse farming world exists. Like this is how your food is grown. um, so like that education aspect has been like a big issue for us for things like fundraising.
Yeah, me myself, I don't think about where my vegetables come from. I don't think about it. So, yeah, it was nice to just like try and learn where my food is coming from. And you said that you have new challenges every day. That's something I'm trying to get better at because I don't like change and things like that. So I think that's very inspirational. So how you did say that the farming methods that you use less water, but how are some other ways that make your farming methods more sustainable?
Yeah, so I think sustainability is a tough conversation in the greenhouse industry. I'd say that this is an area where there is a lot of room for opportunity. So like there is a lot of waste, honestly. Like that is kind of reality of greenhouse agriculture. Is like we have problems where like, diseases can really easily build up, so we don't want to reuse growing media and things like that. And like there are people who are trying to make improvements in certain aspects, like the clips that get used to basically attach plants to strings. We really want to use biodegradable clips, but the problem is that like the plastic is just working really well. And biodegradable is not a great solution because a lot of biodegradable plastics, when they will biodegrade, is under like they'll use them basically industrial conditions, which means really hot and humid and like basically, but that's a greenhouse. Like a greenhouse is hot and humid and sun and those sort of things. So like, and if you have, say, all of your plants start to fall in like a greenhouse operation, then you're losing, potentially, like if you were a big operation, millions of dollars of crop. So the fear of like, switching is very, very high for growers. So I think that this is an area where there is a lot of opportunities in reducing things like, the plant clips that people are using. And some growers are making things to switches like coco coir, which is a biodegradable media, so they can actually compost their growing medias and things like that. And like, there is the sustainability aspect of using like the less water as well as the like the beneficial insects everyone's using. So instead of spraying pesticides as much, they're using beneficial insects. So it's better for like your food's basically ending up less contaminated. So for humans, like that's great. We really definitely want that. But the plastic waste and things like that is definitely still a challenge. But that's in a lot of farming is where we're still looking for better solutions for that.
Yeah, there's always pros and cons to everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And you have to weigh sustainability versus food security too, which is always tough. It's like, what's best for people is not necessarily always what's best for the planet.
yeah, yeah. So is there anything else you would like to add?
Not really that I can think of. I mean, definitely I encourage everyone to learn more about the food production system and like where their food comes from. I think it makes you a better consumer from the perspective of understanding like what you're putting into your body, the supply chain that it's like coming through. So you like understand like it's like how much work really does go into just producing something like fruits and vegetables. And like I know I am just becoming a more conscientious consumer about like what food I'm buying in general because I've learned a lot about farming over the last few years.
Yeah, I need to look back and see because I was not paying attention at all to what I was kind of buying. I was just getting the cheapest thing, but maybe I need to look more into where my food is actually coming from.
Yeah, it can make a big difference. And it's like, especially like, you know, what we're spraying things with, like what conditions they're being grown under, and like, you know, which problems are problems in different industries. So like, yeah, like in greenhouse agriculture, like, you know, when we talk about pesticide residues on like crops, like that's a great thing with greenhouses is often they do tend to be less pesticide heavy or fungicide heavy because we use more of those like biological controls versus something that like is grown in the field. There aren't as many restrictions on what they're allowed to use, and they just don't tend to have that kind of mentality as well. So and that's true for produce. That's especially true for meat, on where you're getting things, and the farming practices of the area they're coming from.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. And I've really enjoyed hearing about your career. And I really appreciate you sharing your experience with me. And I wish you the best of luck with everything that you're working on.
Yeah, good luck too. And I hope that you learn a few more things about this food systems.
Thank you for listening to this episode of What Do You Bring to the Table? A project of Seeds of Diversity's Youth and Food Systems program. We hope you enjoyed hearing from our incredible guests. If you liked what you heard, leave us a comment, share with a friend, or consider donating to support our youth-led work. Thanks again to our amazing funders, the R. Howard Webster Foundation, the Catherine Maxwell Meighen Foundation, and the Peterborough K.M. Hunter Charitable Foundation. Thanks again for listening. Until then, keep exploring your passions, and see you next time.